Welcome to Card Corner. These are the cards. That's the corner. Today I've got these Washington Chronicles historic autographs cards from 2022. Keeping with the name, it looks like we can open some actual autographs from some people that were long since gone when this card set was made. George Washington's life has evolved into legend beyond just being the father of our country. As one of the most colorful and influential people in the history of America, the list of accolades for Washington is immense. He started a world war early in his military career, led an army of ragtag militia against the most powerful country in the world and won, presided over the drafting of the U.S. Constitution, and went on to become the first president of the fledgling country that he helped create. Even with so many incredible achievements in his life, Washington's legend was just beginning, as the choices he made in office would become unwritten rules by which other presidents would operate. As with all people, Washington had his faults and made mistakes, and the Washington Chronicles series will cover the highs and the lows of one of the most important figures in American history. Looks like we can get some coins, signatures, sketches, printing plates, lots of cool stuff. All right, let's crack into there, see what we get. You guys know me, I like my history cards. I usually do 3 packs. I think maybe today I'll only do 2 just because it'll go long if I read all the cards and there's 3. Old Ironsides isn't joining us in the corner today to take us where we need to go. All right, normally we open some pretty old packs, but this is from just last year. 10 cards. There he is. All right, I think that this historic autographs company is really pretty cool. They have a lot of interesting sets, in my opinion. Most of the non-sports cards are from movies or whatever. This is history. I think a really, really cool set would be like Roman history. Stuff about Julius Caesar and stuff like that. All right, our first card is The Rules of Civility and Decent Behavior. What is that? It's a list of 110 etiquette rules composed by French Jesuits in 1595 and translated by Francis Hawkins into English in 1640. The rules were popular during Washington's time and are well known today because George Washington copied them word for word as a handwriting exercise around 1744. These rules were important to Washington. He regularly referred to them and is believed to have memorized the whole set. Civility and decent behavior. All right, next up we got Tis Well. Tis Well. Were George Washington's dying words to his secretary Tobias Lear. He was confirming that Lear understood his last request to be decently buried, and do not let my body be put into the vault less than 3 days after I'm dead. Do you understand me? Is that a reference to... I don't know. All right, next up we've got Ona Wani Judge. Absconded from the household of the President of the United States. Oni Judge a light. Let's not read that. Martha Washington's mixed race enslaved seamstress and personal maid. At age 22, she escaped from President Washington's Philadelphia household in 1796. She was found in New Hampshire, however. Washington did not have her retrieved and brought home because of the bad publicity that would bring. Oni said she would rather die than return to slavery. After a final attempt to reclaim her in 1799, Washington died, and Judge lived out the rest of her life as an unsought fugitive in New Hampshire. She married, had 3 children, and taught herself to read and write, and died in 1849. A little bit of the darker past, I guess. All right, we got the election of 1792 with one of the more famous portraits. President George Washington was elected to a second term of office during the election of 1792, which occurred from November 2nd to December 5th. The vote for Washington was unanimous in the Electoral College. John Adams was reelected as vice president, besting Governor George Clinton of New York, 77 to 50. A lot of empty space here. You feel like they could find something to put there. Overall, though, I think that the effort of this set is very high and good. All right, we've got the Cabinet of Advisors. Washington established a tradition of a presidential cabinet of advisors. George Washington's cabinet included 4 members: Thomas Jefferson as Secretary of State, Alexander Hamilton, Secretary of Treasury, Henry Knox, Secretary of War, and Edmund Randolph, Attorney General. Modern president cabinets have 16 members. I really do like all these old drawings and paintings. They just look so good on some of these cards too. The glossy makes them super sharp. This is the Battle of Germantown, a major engagement in the Philadelphia campaign of the American Revolutionary War. Although it was an American defeat, the determined nature of the Continental soldiers helped bring France into the war on the American side. It was fought in Germantown, Pennsylvania, between the British Army led by Sir William Howe and the American Continental Army under George Washington. After the battle, Washington withdrew to Valley Forge for the winter and retrained his troops with the guidance of General Frederick Wilhelm von Steuben. Never heard of that battle? But trading cards make learning fun. All right, we got the Battle of Ironworks Hill. Actually, several skirmishes that pitted 600 colonial militia under the control of Colonel Samuel Griffin against 2,000 British and Hessian troops led by Karl von Donop. While the militia was outnumbered, it was able to keep Donop from aiding Johann Rall's troops in Trenton, where they were defeated by General George Washington, our guy. All right, we got John Hancock. I believe I could literally get anyone to sign this, and it would be appropriate. He had a very successful trading business in Boston. British regulations like the Stamp Act and Townshend duties were so onerous that Hancock may have taken to smuggling goods into the colonies. In 1768, the British took his ship, Liberty, claiming he had not paid required import fees and imposed a huge fine. Hancock, along with Samuel Adams, encouraged colonial agitation against British taxation and rule. Hancock was the first to sign the Declaration of Independence and big so that King George could read it, even without his glasses. After the Revolutionary War, Hancock was elected the first governor of Massachusetts. Let me know in the comments who you think I should send this card to get signed. All right, we got John Jackie Parke Custis. He was the stepson of George Washington. He was 3 when his father, Daniel Parke Custis, died, and he inherited much of his land and fortune, including 285 black slaves and 18,000 acres in Virginia. He was 5 when his mother, Martha, married George Washington, who raised him and his younger sister, Martha. Custis purchased Abingdon Plantation and nearby land, which would eventually become Arlington National Cemetery and Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. Custis served on Washington's staff at the Siege of Yorktown, where he died at age 26 after contracting camp fever, typhus or dysentery. Some real Oregon Trail action there. All right, we got Freemason, Washington. Freemasonry is a self-improvement association that teaches moral, intellectual, and spiritual lessons through 3 initiation ceremonies, including leading to the degrees of apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason. Members must profess a belief in deity referred to by the lodge as the supreme architect of the universe. George Washington joined the Freemason Lodge at Fredericksburg, Virginia, where he received his Master Mason degree in 1753. Many of Washington's brothers in the Fredericksburg Lodge later served in the Continental Army or Virginia Militia, including Hugh Mercer, George Whedon, and Thomas Posey. For the remainder of his life, Washington was a frequent participant in Masonic ceremonies. As president, Washington exchanged letters with many Masonic lodges. In 1793, acting as Grand Master pro tempore, Washington presided at the Masonic Cemetery ceremony laying of the United States Capitol cornerstone. Some stonecutters there. All right, that was the first pack. Looks like I'm probably just going to do one more because that did take a while. So it'll give us 2 more times where we can do videos. So that's good. See if we can't get our hit here. If not, we'll have to save it for later. All right. Oh, that's a shiny one. Rochambeau. General Rochambeau, Jean-Baptiste Donatien de Vimeur Comte de Rochambeau, was the French general in command of the French army in North America, who played an important role in the Patriots' win at the Siege of Yorktown. He and General George Washington marched their troops to Yorktown together and joined up with the Marquis de Lafayette's troops and trapped General Cornwallis. He returned to France and died at Thor-la-Rochette during Napoleon's rule at age 81. Looks like, is that, yeah, looks like we got a numbered one there. Or maybe that's just the checklist. I'm not too sure. 199 are these ones? I think these ones are... Usually they're numbered, so I don't think that I would get the first one, but then it's also number 115, so who knows what that's all about. We'll throw it in a sleeve just in case it's worth a lot of money. Although we collect here for appreciating the design and historical qualities, such as the myth of So Help Me God. It is impossible that Washington added the phrase, "So help me God," to the end of the oath of office for the presidency. However, this was not recorded until after his death, and scholars still debate it. Evidence does exist that he kissed the Bible after taking the oath. So help me God. All right, we got Washington's farewell address. I guess you can draw yourself in there if you want. George Washington's farewell presidential address was printed in Philadelphia's American Daily Advertiser about 10 weeks before the 1796 presidential election. In it, he reminded citizens to continue to work together and to be wary of relationships with other countries. Domestically, he warned Americans, guard against the impostures of pretended patriotism, to pay attention to the motives of politicians. Alexander Hamilton and James Madison helped Washington write the address. All right, we got the first presidential veto. Used the presidential veto for the first time in April 5th, 1792, refusing to endorse a bill that would have increased the number of seats in the House of Representatives, favoring the northern states. Thomas Jefferson persuaded Washington to use the veto. I'm not sure about these cards where it's just a historical document. I definitely prefer where they take an old painting or whatever. Such as this picture of Federal Hall. New York City is where George Washington took the oath of office and where the first United States Congress met. It was also home to the Supreme Court and the presidential offices. It is now a museum that honors the early days of America. I like going to museums like that. Nice. This one shows off the shiny aspect pretty good. It is the Battle of White Marsh. In one last attempt to destroy Washington and the Continental Army before the onset of winter, British General Sir William Howe led a sizable contingent of troops out of Philadelphia. After a series of skirmishes, Howe called off the attack and returned to Philadelphia without engaging Washington in a decisive conflict. With the British back in Philadelphia, Washington was able to march his troops to winter quarters at Valley Forge. Right here we got the Battle of Trenton. Pretty sharp painting there. After the famous crossing of the Delaware River, George Washington led the Continental Army to Trenton, New Jersey. The attack began at 8 a.m. on December 26, 1776. Washington's forces were victorious, capturing, wounding, or killing two-thirds of the 1,500 Hessian soldiers. Washington lost only 2 soldiers, both dying of exposure. The victory at Trenton earned Washington acclaim and inspired re-enlistments. All right, next we got William Billy Lee. William Billy Lee was a slave who served as George Washington's personal assistant and valet. He also fought beside Washington during the American Revolution and served as his huntsman during fox hunts. He was the only one of George Washington's slaves who was freed immediately upon George Washington's death in 1799. The remaining slaves were freed on Martha Washington's death. All right, we got Martha Patsy Parke Custis, the youngest child of Martha Custis Washington and her first husband Daniel. Born healthy, Patsy developed a seizure disorder around 5 years old, but letters do not mention it again until 1768, when she was 11, when they became frequent. Contrary to the custom of the day, the Washingtons were open about Patsy's seizures. Patty died following a seizure when she was 17. Poor Patty. All right, the last one is Washington's estate. When Washington died in 1799, he left an estate worth approximately $780,000, about $675 million in 2021. The estate included 50,000 acres of land and 317 slaves at Mount Vernon. Washington left the majority of his estate to his wife, Martha. Billy Lee, Washington's favorite slave, was freed immediately, as specified in Washington's will. Many other slaves were freed within the next 2 years. When Martha passed away in 1802, the estate passed to Bushrod Washington, George Washington's nephew. All right. So I'm going to cut it short there at 2 packs, just because we're approaching 20 minutes now, and that's quite a long video. I definitely think that this Rochambeau is the best card we got in the first couple of packs. Let me know what your favorite point of Washington's history was with these cards. Give me a like if you are so inclined. Please subscribe if you have not already. This is the first video of the Washington Chronicles by Historic Artifacts in Card Corner. Take it easy.